Salve amicus, my name is AlzboHD, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at the massive updates and changes that today's 2.0 patch will bring to Imperator Rome. This greatly awaited overhaul of the game improves upon the overall experience, bringing core updates to the user interface, massive changes to warfare mechanics, and an entirely redesigned way to obtain innovations and scientific research. But before we begin, I'd like to thank the developers and publishers of Imperator Rome, Paradox Interactive, for sponsoring this video. In this overview, we will cover the largest upgrades to arrive in 2.0, as well as the expanded features of the concurrently releasing Heirs of Alexander DLC. One of the most anticipated changes coming in the 2.0 update is without a doubt the user interface. Nearly every aspect of the game's menus, screens, and interfaces have received a substantial overhaul, with the overall effect being a more colorful and illuminated playing experience. In previous versions of Imperator Rome, the in-game windows were gray, unsaturated, and relatively unintuitive, but in the new update, almost everything has changed, with the new UI boasting a more vibrant palette of Roman red and Babylonian blue. Perhaps the most noticeable changes to the UI are in the Outliner tab, government screens, and provincial interface menus. Present on the far right of your screen, the new Outliner tab is more compact, informative, and is now able to be hidden or revealed by clicking on its corresponding arrow button. The second largest change concerns the administration of your empire, with all of the government tabs and menus being relocated from the top to the left-hand periphery of your screen. Every interface in this area has received a much-needed facelift, and my favorite feature is the new National Overview, which is now visible when you click on your flag at the top left of your screen. In-game alerts have also received an overhaul, and are now color-coded depending on severity, with green icons denoting optional or beneficial tasks you might take, yellow icons denoting important notifications, and red icons relating to severe disasters, such as an upcoming civil war or actively disloyal characters. The final UI change we will cover relates to the provincial user interface. Accessing the information of your nation's provinces is substantially more intuitive in the 2.0 update, with vital information no longer taking up 30% of your screen. Overall, the interface is more navigable and easy to understand, and even the pause menu, in-game loading screens, and title menu have benefited from these aesthetic upgrades. It is said that war never changes, but in Imperator Rome's 2.0 patch, everything is changing, starting with the newly added system of military levies. Levies are a new category of military organization that feature heavily in the early to mid-game. They are cheap military units automatically available to all nations, and are pulled directly from your non-slave population, conceptualized in-game as pops. Within the levy system, different classes of levies pull from different classes of pops. Functionally speaking, this means that lighter troops, like archers, are generally levied from freemen or tribesmen, while heavier troops, like heavy cavalry, are raised from citizens and nobles. When raised as a standing army, the pops associated with each levy are immune to the mechanics of migration, assimilation, conversion, and starvation, but that does not mean your levied pops are immortal. If and when your levies suffer losses in battle, any associated pops linked with that levy might die outright if it suffers from too much attrition. This means that you can effectively depopulate nations by vanquishing their military if they rely too much on levies. During times of peace, levies cost nothing to maintain, and when raised during war cost only a marginal amount of upkeep when in use. This upkeep is represented by levied pops no longer contributing base tax, manpower, or research points in the provinces they normally work in. Additionally, keeping your levy up for prolonged periods of conflict will inflict a ticking war exhaustion malus, so you should be sure to ensure that they are only raised during times of war. The size and composition of your levies depends on the cultures and population types in the provinces you control. At the start of your campaign, you'll only be able to enlist the levies of your primary culture, but later on you'll be able to raise levies from other groups by integrating their culture. In the Western world, levies in this time are largely composed of light and heavy infantry and cavalry. On the other hand, levies in Eastern cultures generally possess more archers, horse archers, and even war elephants in particular parts of North Africa and South Asia. You can find the particular composition of a cultural levy by hovering over the target culture. Given that only levies belonging to your primary and integrated cultures will raise in times of war, you'll have another reason to integrate foreign cultures, as they can greatly contribute to rounding out the military composition of your armies. And speaking of integrating cultures, in the 2.0 update you can use cultural integration to unlock the military tradition trees of your neighbors. The newly redesigned and expanded upon military traditions tree is more dynamic than ever before, with all pre-existing cultural military trees being doubled, allowing you to start your campaign with 2 separate trees relating to your primary culture. In the new update, you'll no longer be limited to the military tree of your starting culture, and you can expand your available military traditions throughout your campaign by conquering and integrating pops of adjacent cultures. In effect, this allows your nation to benefit from a wide variety of traditions from across the world. Instead of fully developing your own cultural military traditions, you could opt instead to mix and match from a variety of bonuses ranging from the Hellenic, Persian, or even Indian worlds. In general, each set of cultural military traditions will allow you to embrace 1 to 2 other military traditions taken from neighboring cultural groups. For example, let's say you want to unlock the Persian military traditions as Rome to take advantage of their massive bonuses to cavalry combat ability. To realize this goal, you'll first have to unlock the Greek military traditions as you conquer your way to the east. With your new Greek military traditions in place, you can then unlock the Persian military traditions once you've unlocked the requirements, which we will now discuss. To gain access to the new military traditions, you'll first have to ensure you've conquered and integrated the culture you want to benefit from. As integrating cultures presents certain setbacks, like reduced primary cultural happiness, you'll have to decide if having larger access to military bonuses is worth the risk. Once you've integrated the adjacent culture into your nation and possess a sizable portion of their population, you can then embrace their cultural influence within the military tradition menu. This will now unlock their military traditions permanently as if they were your own, allowing you to benefit from the expertise of cultures around the world. One of the most anticipated changes coming in the update is the mechanic of legions, which function as the professional armies of the ancient period. In a similar way to the cohort mechanic of previous versions of the game, legions are a permanent force in your military that are hired on a per-province basis, but, unlike cohorts, are only available to certain monarchies at campaign start, and must be unlocked by other governments through scientific innovation and military reform. Given the technological disparity between the ancient world's various tribes and government forms, this means that some monarchies can start with legions, republics can gain access to them through early game innovations, and that tribal governments must first reform their government to access them, which will necessitate a hefty investment into early game research. In order to hire legions, you must first progress your nation technologically to the point where you unlock the prerequisite military innovation. In general, monarchies gain access to this technology earlier than republics, and can sometimes start their campaign with the ability to pass a law to access them immediately. If you are playing a republic, like Carthage in my example, you must first research the professional training innovation in your tech tree to start the process. Once researched, this innovation allows you to change your government's military reforms by passing the Provisioning Act, which allows you to raise legions in your capital region. Later innovations will allow you to fully modernize your military, which grants you the ability to raise an unlimited number of legions throughout your state. Legions are hired and maintained on a per-province basis, with your capital province being the place you'll first be able to raise them. In the Legion tab of your military interface, you'll be able to customize your legion's name, unit composition, and select generals from among the military leaders of your nation to lead the legion. Unlike with levies, you'll be able to select specific unit compositions for your legions, which allows you to balance your compositional weaknesses and make your professional army complement your auxiliary troops. Legions are powerful, but quite expensive, and this is especially the case in the early game, with upright costs to recruit and a substantial monthly maintenance fee that can bankrupt you if you're not prepared to pay their salaries in salt. Unlike levies, legions are permanently employed by your state, and can only be dismissed by paying a high upfront cost or having their home province conquered by the enemy. Once you hire your first legion, you'll be able to access their military histories and distinctions, which serve as permanent modifiers, bonuses, and malices that represent the successes and failures of their military exploits. Just by forming your first legion, you'll gain the distinction of Primogenia, which grants your founding legion permanent bonuses that increase their morale recovery and lower the chance that their cohorts will become loyal to their generals. Over time, you can gain more distinctions and bonuses for your legions by obtaining victory in battle, but you should be mindful that your legion's success comes with potential political problems. This is because legions are more likely to follow disloyal generals, especially if they succeed while under their command. To avoid civil wars and treason, you should carefully manage the leaders of your legions to avoid them from overthrowing your state and falling victim to a coup d'etat. Another large change coming to Imperator Rome is a massive redesign of the pre-existing fort and occupation system. In the new update, occupying the forts of a given province will now transfer control over all of the settlements of that province without you having to individually siege them. This is represented by a diamond icon that appears on these settlements and automatically places them under your military occupation. If a nation has no fort in a given province, simply taking the province's capital will transfer all settlements to your control, making undefended regions a huge liability for any growing empire. This is a massive quality of life update to the game, as you'll no longer have to detach your armies to carpet siege your enemy settlement by settlement. Instead, forts now serve a primary role in the defense of your lands. But forts cannot be spammed willy-nilly by you or the AI, as their number will now be limited by the new province fort limit mechanic. Any given province can only sustain a certain amount of forts, which can be seen within the province menu tab. You can increase this limit on a per-province basis by fortifying the province with influence, which allows you to construct and upgrade more fortifications. If you exceed this number, the upkeep and maintenance costs of your forts will skyrocket, effectively meaning that it's best to place your forts in well-defended and strategic areas of your provinces. But forts, much like vows, are meant to be broken, and in the new update, the addition of the engineer cohort to your legions will greatly augment your nation's capabilities of siege warfare. This new specialized cohort functions mechanically like a siege weapon part Swiss Army knife, offering any legion it's attached to a massive +1 to all siege rolls when besieging a given fort. Engineers also function as logistical support, and give attached armies the ability to cross rivers and negate crossing penalties in combat, as long as there is one engineer for every 10 of your other units. Last but certainly not least, engineers can also construct roads at a greatly reduced price in any army that they are attached with, allowing you to pave all roads to Rome. Nota bene that engineers in Imperator Rome, much like in real life, are expensive to hire and maintain, but provide impressive bonuses to rulers that can afford to employ them on the field of battle. In order to gain access to further bonuses, unique laws, and a plethora of other new mechanics, you'll first have to invest in your nation's technology and innovation, one of the larger overhauled mechanics coming in the 2.0 update. These scientific advances no longer cost money, but instead cost innovation points, which can be accrued over time by having competent researchers and a fair share of citizens and nobles in your nation. These scientific pops contribute to your monthly research gain, which in turn boosts the scientific output of your researchers. When your researchers level up in either a martial, civic, oratory, or religious advance, you'll gain access to an innovation that you can invest into any tree of technology to specialize the strengths of your state. And on the topic of trees, the 2.0 update has repurposed the innovations mechanic into 4 categories of technology trees that branch off into various specializations. Many innovations within these various trees now play a crucial role in the development of your state, like the military reforms that allow you to raise legions and professional armies. Other innovations, like those of the religious category, enable you to supercharge the development of your infrastructure. Unlike in previous versions of the game, the new update allows you to see all future innovations before you unlock them, permitting you to plan the advances of your innovations with the new planning mode feature. Overall, these changes to science and technology result in more specialized gameplay, and I look forward to what the modding community can accomplish with this new toolset. If you've followed the channel thus far, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of new starting and formable nations, and in the 2.0 update, more than 40 new states will make an appearance. In general, the majority of these 37 starting tags appear in Anatolia and Greece, though there is also the new Illyrian state of Medea north of Macedonia and the Levantine tag of Ibasim off the coast of Iberia. These new nations are incredibly difficult to play, as they consist almost entirely of federated tribes surrounded by the growing ambitions of the antagonist kingdom. This geopolitical development should influence the wars of Asia Minor, and will undoubtedly result in growing pains for any diadochi that seek to dominate Anatolia. Complementing these starting nations is the addition of 10 new formable nations, some of which appear in the starting date, but can also later be reformed by other states in their cultural group. These include Lycia, Milius, Isauria, and Pisidia, and from what I've seen so far, are exclusive to the Asia Minor region. These small Tier 1 and Tier 2 formable states will add more variety to the region, and provide a daunting challenge for players interested in spicy Iron Man campaigns. While we are still on topic of the Hellenic world, it's a good time to bring up the Legacy of Alexander, a new casus belli coming in the update that will become available to all diadochi successor states. This war goal allows successor states to conquer great tracts of land across the former provinces of Alexander's empire, as its special mechanic automatically transfers and annexes any occupied territory directly into your control. This exceptionally powerful casus belli allows diadochi to swiftly speedrun into a world conquest attempt, but you can't use it to outright fully annex your larger neighbors. This is because a small amount of war exhaustion is added to any nation that gains territory using this war goal, ultimately forcing your nation to make peace once your gains transform into civil unrest pains. Further complicating the Legacy of Alexander war goal is that it will expire upon the death of your original diadochi ruler, so be sure to use it before you lose it. Concurrent with the release of 2.0 is the new Heirs of Alexander content pack that unlocks a plethora of bonuses concentrating on the Hellenic and Greek successor states. This downloadable content unlocks newly added unique mission trees for the Antagonid, Seleucid, Egyptian, Macedonian, and Thracian empires, who together form the 5 primary diadochi states. Additionally, all successor states also receive a super-powered mission tree that will allow them to retrace Alexander's steps and reunify the Argead Empire, with a shared mission tree present in the mid to late game that grants substantial bonuses to all diadochi states. In terms of flavor, Heirs of Alexander further expands upon the Greek regions by adding new historical events that shape the legacy of the successor states. This is accompanied in turn by the addition of new deities and regional gods and goddesses that represent the syncretic nature of religion in these often peripheral regions of the Hellenic world. If you are into plundering booty, you're in luck as well, as Heirs of Alexander also adds new distinctive artifacts and treasures throughout Alexander's former kingdom that grant your nation substantial bonuses, so long as you're able to procure them by force. Treasure and flavor aside, by far my most favorite feature of the DLC is the new Wonder Designer and Custom Monument tool, which allows you to create handmade monuments for substantial bonuses that benefit the province they are created in, and potentially your entire empire. This expansion feature can be accessed in the building section of your province's interface, and allows you to construct massive towers, temples, or pyramids of your choice. You can select from among hundreds of bonus effects that grant your monument power to your nation, though many of these effects are locked behind mid to late game scientific innovations. The quality of your monuments is also dictated by the resources you use, as you can opt to import marble, iron, ivory, and a litany of other luxury resources to increase the bonuses of your great work at the expense of a larger initial time and money investment. To speed up the construction of your great wonders, you can appoint a construction leader, and once you're ready to start the process, can press the Build Great Wonder button. You should keep in mind that building wonders takes years, sometimes even decades, and during the construction process, a large portion of your lower tier pops will be engaged in the process. It's also important to note that great wonders, both pre-existing and custom built, will paint you as a massive target, as other nations will want to conquer them for their massive modifiers and empire-wide bonuses. Before ending the video, I'd like to thank you for watching this far and supporting the algorithm. If you are interested in staying up to date with Imperator Rome and strategy gaming in general, I encourage you to subscribe to the forum and ring the Republic's notification bell. A special thanks to Paradox Interactive for sponsoring this video, and if you'd like to check out Imperator Rome 2.0 and the Heirs of Alexander DLC, be sure to check out the link in the description box below. As always, I greatly appreciate comments and recommendations for future videos in the comment section below, so if you have any ideas, be sure to let me know. Without further ado, it's time to roll the credits.